Hi, friends. Okay, so I'm kind of cracking up secretly because I'm super close to my phone and I would love to be like far away, but I can't because I have a headpiece because my phone sucks and I need a new one. All right, cool. So, welcome. Thank you for those that bared with me with all these technical issues. It's even more funny because it's Mercury in retrograde. So, I'm cracking up because I'm making a video about Mercury in retrograde and my phone is like causing so many problems. So, that's even funnier. It's like cracking up. Excuse my nail, by the way. This is my one nail. I've been figuring out like things. Don't excuse them. Okay. All right. So, anyway, let's talk. Let's have a conversation. It's been quite a while since I came on here and started discussing about the weather forecast of the stars. So I'm super excited to speak to you guys. This one in particular is very important to me because as said before, and as you guys have kind of followed on a lot of my statuses, I haven't really been present for everyday conversation. And I've tried to kind of post a lot of my memories in the process of like me taking in a lot of what I was reflecting during my time period. But I've had a couple of serious deaths in my circle, my family, and a really, really, really good friend of mine. So, definitely was a lot going on for me as far as the quarantine. Again, I'm really big on celebrating a life and really not focusing on the part of just the death as more so a sad thing, but more so as accepting the nature of what life is and understanding that it is part of our contracts on being in this particular life is that, you know, everything has its death and rebirth. And as much as, trust me, I am definitely going through it in having my moments. So just because I understand that concept doesn't necessarily mean that I am completely detached. I'm definitely going through those moments. But I thought that it would be pretty vulnerable of me to come on here and kind of share what I actually experience right now during the Venus in retrograde, as well as this new transit that we just entered into. Not new, but part of the newer one compared to what's been going on this year. We have another retrograde of Mercury, and this time it's in Cancer. So I wanted to kind of go with this energy because it's interesting enough. Like Gemini and Cancer energy, although they're like right next to each other, to me they stand for two very, very different things. Very different things. In the sense that you have Gemini energy that is a more playful and more sporadic energy that wants to kind of dive into so many different things and get in, you know, get your hands, what's the way? Get your hands wet, not your hands wet. What is it? Get your hands dirty. Wow. Anyway, so yeah, Gemini definitely wants to be able to feel things and play and kind of figure things out. And Cancer energy kind of goes into its own personal setting and wants to really be able to feel things, but from a place of home and a place of comfort. So there is a lot of energy switches when it comes to these two energies, and the fact that they're right next to each other. It's interesting how we merge as a society into them and individually as well. So I just wanted to go over some of the transits that I've kind of been realizing myself, how they've been working with my life, and kind of help you guys figure this out a little bit. So I'm just going to go over in the beginning some of the dates that are very important so you can understand these energies and how they're moving. And then we'll get into the gist of what they represent and how to utilize the energy for your best favor. Okay, so we did have Venus in retrograde. It began May 13th was when it went 21 degrees in Gemini. It went into retrograde and it went direct on June 25th. I'm cracking up because before I actually came back on here, I was supposed to go to the date. I'm pretty sure it's the 25th today and not the 26th. I'm going to look on my computer right now that's right next to me, cracking up because I don't know what day it is. Okay, great. So it's the 26th. Days are kind of like all coming together when it comes to the retrograde. But so yesterday we went into direct as far as Venus going in moving more so forward and not going. Technically, it doesn't go backwards. It just goes in a backwards forward movement. So instead of like going backwards, the planet itself, it's just kind of like going backwards. So it's like traveling this way, okay? So it's still going forward. There is a little discrepancy with that. A lot of people think that with retrograde, it's like literally the planet is going backwards, and that's not really how that works. But it's almost like it's going back into where it just came from. So it's traveling towards that area of where it just went through all these things, and now it needs to kind of process what has occurred during that time, as well as sometimes mixing into other areas of our life too. Like, for example, Venus in retrograde has to do with love. So you might go through things that you are reconnecting with somebody from that you stopped speaking to a couple years ago, or whatever the case. It doesn't have to necessarily be in the previous like moments of times before we actually hit Venus in retrograde. So just in case there's a confusion with that, there's some clarification. Excuse me. Okay, so back to those dates. So yeah, so Venus went into retrograde on May 13th and 21 degrees of Gemini. It went direct yesterday. And it stayed in Gemini the entire time that it was actually in retrograde. Also, the post shadow doesn't end until July 29th. So these are important things that I will go through as well. And then you will kind of also understand this for Mercury. Well, you have a pre-shadow, you have a retrograde period, and then you have the post-shadow. So understanding what that means, it's kind of like going on vacation, right? The planets are going on vacation. They're going into reflection mode, right? A lot of us tend to do that when we go on vacation. We go into reflection. So basically, the pre-shadow is kind of like when you're packing up all your stuff. It's the excitement that's there. It's the happiness that's there. You get really, really excited that you're about to go on this trip. You're making sure that you have everything checked off of your list, making sure you're prepared. And then you have the actual vacation. And then after the vacation, you come right back and you're like, oh, okay, all my stuff is everywhere. Now I have to unpack that stuff, throw things in the laundry, make sure that, like, you know, I'm kind of prepping to go back to my everyday life, back to work, back to taking care of the kids, back to just what you do on a daily basis. So that's basically kind of how the retrograde periods go. So when I say that it's in pre-shadow, it's almost like the planet is gearing up. So that's kind of like when you start to, whatever that planet represents, you start to kind of feel the effects of it going into retrograde. So in perfect example, when it comes to Venus, right, you might start to sense things happening where maybe if you're in a relationship, there might be some issues that might start to kind of glisten a little bit, that things that you would most likely start to process during the retrograde period and actually go through that reflection period with your partner. Or there might be like some grand thing that happened that causes the ripple effect of what you're going to reflect when it comes to like value. So maybe, you know, you lost your car, maybe, because Venus is also cars. So let's say, or luxury cars. So let's say you unfortunately got into a car crash. That'll kind of be the start of where that pre-shadow effect would be. And then eventually what will end up happening is that you would go through the retrograde period where you're reflecting now. So this is now you're starting to think about all the things that you can do without a vehicle, all the things that you need a vehicle for, what actually you should have gotten done. Well, if it was a car accident, what you could have done differently to not get into the car accident, things like that. Or like, now that you've gotten into the car accident, what you can do as far as moving forward. Now, this is the key. Let's say now that you're thinking about getting another vehicle, right? Maybe getting into the car accident was a good thing. Maybe it was like, I needed to get rid of that car. So this is what you're processing during the retrograde period. And then during post shadow is when you really want to like make the decisions, whereas during retrograde you probably don't necessarily want to buy the car because you're now looking at so many things about your car that you previously had, and you're making decisions about what to get based off of that rather than moving forward in the right direction. And it's like quick decisions rather than like, okay, I really fully thought this out, retrograde, right? I really fully thought this out, and now once I got to the point where I'm confident, direct, I can now make the decision, right? Now I'm making the decision. If you made the decision before you got to a point where you feel like you went through all the things, you might jump into a situation that you not necessarily haven't really fully thought out. So that's pretty much how you would take in retrogrades in general. And Venus was just like a example for that. But now that we understand that, let's also talk about what Venus in retrograde actually was, because we just went through this and went direct. So now we're in the stage where we can start making decisions, whatever arena Venus represents. So Venus represents the energies that are governed by Taurus and Libra, right? Because Venus rules Taurus and Libra. It is what's considered to be the ruling planet, okay? That being said, Taurus energy really has to do with the senses. So anything that has to do with touch, smell, taste, hearing, seeing, and what's really important is also knowing. So knowing is a sense that a lot of us forget, right? A lot of us don't really necessarily want to connect to, because in many ways our intuition can scare us. In many ways, we are not prepared to actually tolerate what our thoughts are at the end of the day, what our gut feeling is. And in many ways, society kind of will train us to ignore our gut feelings, because it really is about doing things that social instruction will accept. So in many times when we become disconnected towards those intuitive thoughts, it causes us to ignore them, and it causes us to disassociate with them to the point where we don't normally tap into them on the first instinct, or we, like I said, we just ignore it in the first place. So those are things that are really, really important to understand when it comes to our senses, is that the senses itself that we are brought up to understand, the five senses, are all things that connect us from spiritual to physical reality, right? Those are things that make us see things and hear things and taste. We know what it tastes like. So it's like helping us kind of bring what we know into a physical world. And that very much so represents that second house energy in our birth chart, which is ruled by Taurus, because it's the opposite of the Scorpio energy in the eighth house, which is as above, right? Spiritual energy. Even like when you think Scorpio, it's really anything that's like on the outside of what people can see, because Scorpio energy has to do with penetration. It's things that are not typically, you're not connecting with them on an everyday basis. You more so have to be like invited in. So things that are beneath the surface, things that are above what we can see in the sky. It's things that are on the outside of what is in our reality that we are able to then look into, right? This could also tap into like Aquarius energy as well. But they're also very relatable signs when it comes to, in Eastern astrology, the two signs of Aquarius and Scorpio are considered to be the karmic signs. So this makes a lot of sense for that. But basically, like the Scorpio energy that's in the eighth house, that is the spiritual energy, is opposite from the physical energy that's in Taurus, which is second house. So it's basically saying, I wish I had my cards with me, but if you guys have a second, if you Google the Magician card, it's literally a man that's pointing up with a candle, a white candle in his hand, and he's pointing down below. And then there's tools that are there of every type of set. So there's a pentacle, there's a wand, there is a cup, and then there's a sword. And it's trying to represent that as long as you have the tools, you are the magician, right? You are the one that's bringing what the thoughts are, and you're bringing it below to actual physical manifestation, which is that Taurus energy. So connecting to the Taurus energy is important, because when you're connecting to it, it's literally saying, these are my senses. I'm connecting to nature. I'm connecting to my roots and what's underneath and what's beneath the surface, right? That concept, which is that scorpionic energy, you're connecting to those things by tapping into your senses. Easy way of saying it, Taurus love plants. Taurus love food. Taurus love sex. Taurus love anything that has to do with indulgence of some sort. Self-indulgence and when I say self-indulgence, I mean not in a negative way, but in a way to connect to self, a way that is a grounded energy that you can connect to Mother Nature, which Mother Nature, really, we're connected to it when we recognize that we are made with all the elements of Mother Nature, right? So that being said, it's easier for us to understand and process the reasons why Taurus might be attracted to these things. And it's not just Taurus Sun, right? A lot of us could be a Taurus Sun and then hate plants if we have certain areas of our charts that are like totally against it. You know, you might have Taurus in 12th house and then your Sun is in there, and like, this is so like out there if you really get into astrology, but you might have in those areas, which is going to kind of be losses. So you might lose your love for senses in a way if it's in certain areas of your chart. But generally speaking, people that have a strong Taurus flare to their chart, any type of sun, moon, rising, typically would be into anything that has to do with connecting to our senses, movies, art, especially art, right? You find a lot of Tauruses in the nature of directing. They're really into watching movies or directing people at work or whatever the case may be, overworkers. You do have a lot of Taurus into food. They love food, not just food, good food, right? Things that connect them to their taste. And then just anything that really has to do with luxury things that make them feel worthy of themselves, right? And again, that's why it says self-indulgence. It's the second house. It's the house of our birth charts that talk about our support to the first house, which is our bodies. So a lot of when you think of support, that has to do with food, right? That has to do with security. In many ways, money, right? Money, a lot of Taurus, I mean, let's be honest, Taurus want their security. You will never find a Taurus that will be dating somebody that doesn't have stability of some sort, whether it's a job or whether it's within themselves. They're most likely not going to feel safe in that environment because they need to know that they're stable. And because of that, when you think of those things, putting Venus in this area in retrograde are going to make us think about those things. What makes us stable? What makes our worth mean something to us, right? Like what makes us feel worthy? What makes us feel connected to our roots? Like roots in the sense of, we'll get into the Cancer energy, but roots like, I'm talking about not roots as far as like family and home like that. No, necessarily roots, like how we are now in our bodies, like what makes us understand that connection. Again, I spoke of self-value, but then it's also another side too when it comes to, and it could even extend to food and stuff too, like what are we eating? What are we putting in our bodies? That is very Virgo energy as well, so I wouldn't take it to the health extent, but I would say like what is it that makes us feel good? That's really what that Taurus energy is. What makes us feel good? So a lot of Venus in retrograde energy that we just went through was about that. We're in a reflection mode of asking ourselves, what makes me feel good? What makes me feel worthy? What makes me feel like I am so, like I can get up and do more? And what can I taste? What music could I listen to? What art can I see? What person could I touch? Things like that. Like these are things that you're going to be reflecting on. And reflecting on the things that you can't connect with, right? The things that you miss, the things that you want to touch, the things that you want to taste, the things that you want to see, things that you are feeling like you're missing. These are also things that you're going to be reflecting on. And that being said, that's Taurus energy. Let's also talk about Libra energy because Libra is also ruled by Venus. It's actually... Taurus is like the vacation home for Venus, whereas Venus is like the happiest person when she's hanging out in her home place, which is Libra. Libra energy is an interesting energy because it's considered to be a dual energy since it has scales. It's a dual energy very similar to Gemini. Those are like the two signs that are considered to be dual signs. And there's also, I would also say in many ways, Pisces too with the two fish. But, out of the Libra energy, you have the side that demands justice, right? That should ring a bell. That should totally ring a bell with all of this Black Lives Matter movement. Like, are you kidding me? Like, we're reflecting on that. We're reflecting on justice. We're reflecting on why certain people haven't been arrested when we know damn well they should be. We're reflecting on how we were being treated in certain situations of loving energy, of neighboring energy, whatever it's that idea of justice are things that we are going to be reflecting over. So it's not just as a society base, it's also individually. What do we feel like we didn't get justice over? Has there been things going on in our lives that we feel like we were treated unfairly for? We didn't get the fair results out of? These are things you would have been reflecting on, right? Other than justice, there's also art, right? I was saying in my last video that I was recording, I was really sad because it had static, but me and my boyfriend, I wrote a track about my boyfriend. We got together in December, or we got technically we got back to speaking to each other in November, and then we decided to make it official in December. And then I wrote a track about my boyfriend when I first met him 2 years ago, and that track was really, really important to me, so important to me. And it was interesting because it was kind of like a dynamic of me meeting him and not really knowing too much about him, but feeling something very heavy. And I wrote a track about it, and I barely knew him, but I just, art is art. And I felt the need that it sparked something. So I wrote a track, and then ironically, we have recently been working on that track where he's a producer. So it was really awesome for him to be able to kind of create the music that goes behind it, and then also write his own verse towards the track. So it's like really cool because you have an energy that was from previous to like an energy that's telling a story that he's telling his version of it now from two different spectrums, because this is before, me and him were able to make it an official thing. Me and him were able to be really self-involved. By the way, that is not gunshots. Those are fireworks. I have no idea why Philly is so obsessed with fireworks. It drives me batshit. But anyway, back to what I was saying. So I'm so sorry if that's really loud. It will go on until like 1 o'clock in the morning. Thank God I have earplugs. Okay, so anyway, back to what I was saying. So yeah, so it's really cool because there is this large spectrum of like a 2 year kind of like life area where it's like, here's how I feel. I mean, at that time, me and my boyfriend were not even intimate physically or anything like that. So it's just kind of like, at that point, this was literally me just expressing how I feel about what I think, what I know, but I don't know just yet because I haven't connected to those senses. And it's like his take is 2 years later, and it's showing what he knows, but what he now, instead of imagining, he has been able to connect senses with me, our conversations and things like that. So it's like a really cool dynamic. Anyway, that being said, this just gives an example of kind of like what Venus in retrograde could do. It could take some art that you created years ago or some project that you wanted to create and bring it back into form. And it doesn't really have a time span on when it starts. It just like, again, it could be something that you started 10 years ago, like a project. And then it's like right now you feel like you're fertile enough to continue it, creatively fertile. Not fertile the other way, but you know what I mean? But yeah, you could feel creatively fertile enough to bring that now back, and that you have this energy of whatever is going on and now inspires you to work with it. Now, again, this is not really an energy as per discussed previously. This is not an energy that you want to start new projects or new relationships or things that haven't kind of already planted their seeds. You don't really want to start things like that, because once things gear back up and things go direct, it's almost like you're bringing something new, and then it's like it's introducing it to what was already there, and it might be in a culture shock of like, what the fuck, this is so different. Like, so again, you can meet somebody that like you think is like the most awesome person in the world, and then when like Venus goes direct, they're like the complete opposite person, because you're in a moment of reflection. So your brain is actually processing things backwards, and it will cause you to pick somebody that you compare them to what you've had. So, I mean, I don't know how many times I've heard that where it's like we have picked partners, right, who like we've compared from somebody else, and we'll be like, oh, this is the reason why I'm picking this person. It's not that you actually are interested in the individual, but it's the comparison between that individual and the person that you just dated and went through all this shit with. That's the stuff that's like gonna make you choose that person. And that's why when you go direct, you realize, wow, I really don't want to be with this person. I just saw something in them that the other person didn't have, and like I made a big decision out of that. And that's what could occur. Now, that being said, that does not necessarily mean that relationships cannot start in Venus in retrograde or Mercury in retrograde. That doesn't mean that thing. It happens all the time. Do they last? Many times I don't. I can't even express to you before I met my boyfriend how many people I like just like started to converse with about like, you know, seeing what's up with them. And like it was during a Mercury in retrograde, and I kid you not, like the moment it hit direct, it's happened multiple times. I'm just kind of like, this person is nothing of what I was like into. What am I doing? And it's just because it's the comparison factors, and you're in la la land, it feels good, and you might just get involved. Again, things do happen where you can meet somebody and you think you want something because you compared it to something else or because of whatever reason. You get with them, and then like once Venus gets direct or Mercury goes direct, you actually discover that like what you thought you wanted, you thought they had, and they really have what you really needed. So it is possible that like it just blends out to that position. That's totally fine. Is it really like popular? No. It's very rare for that to occur, but it is also life, and I don't really have a measuring thing of everybody in the world, so I'm just saying it is totally possible. But the amount of stories that I've heard when somebody tells me they're into a person during those retrogrades, I'm just like, are they new? Yeah, okay. And I'm just like, cool. If it's somebody from the past, I'm like, oh, okay, this makes sense. See what's up. You know, maybe this is the start of that. You know, maybe this connection will actually last this time. Maybe you're revisiting things that the two of you needed to talk about. So it's very possible. Again, Libra energy is also not just justice, not just art. Libra energy talks about mutual respect. Me having a Libra moon, and I have recently been taking therapy, and it's been so helpful, especially with what I'm dealing with as far as emotions right now. But the main thing that she pointed out to me as being a Libra moon is that I am a lot of we, and I am not that much of I. That being said, I will get extremely passionate about energy. Like if somebody does something that can affect so many people, and like, you know, and they were worried about just themselves, it just does something to me. I don't know what it is. It just drives me nuts. And it like, I get extremely like judge oriented, very lawyer like. I also have Mars in 7th house, so like I can naturally just have a very lawyer type energy. Don't judge me if you look that up. You're gonna be like, oh my god, that's why when I was in the argument with Suki, blah 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 blah. But yeah, anyway. That being said, no, I do take a very lawyer approach when it comes to that justice factor. When someone else is being treated incorrectly, it drives me crazy. I hate it. But in the same factor, my therapist also explains to me that when it comes to the I factors, right, when somebody disrespects me, I always find a way to see a positive thing out of it, because I just don't like conflict of any sort. It puts me in a very weird position. So that being said, that Libra energy really has to do, and for those that didn't hear me earlier, I was saying this because I am a Libra moon, so it would make sense for me to explain this part of saying mutual respect. When you think of the reflection of mutual respect, that's also going to tie heavily into that Venus in retrograde aspect, because when we look back at what self-value means to us, what love means to us, right, we're also looking back at how we were treated, if we were respected, if somebody that we were seeing or involving ourselves with, or a job we have, or whatever the case may be, we are connecting that energy and being like, was I being treated with respect? Was I being considered in this? You know what I mean? Main things that really are very, 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 very important. So that being said, that's things that we also need to think about. We also need to think about, how was I treated in this situation? How did I treat that person, right? It's also like not just about us. It's also about how we treated other people, because not everybody is, you know, got their greatest effort when it comes to how we treat other people. Sometimes we need to kind of reflect on that and take a moment to step back and reflect on how we communicate. So now that we get into communication, funny enough, once we take all those aspects of Venus and we apply them, now interesting enough, the universe wants to throw in Mercury, communication. So we pretty much covered all that stuff when it comes to the Venus thing. So let's talk about Mercury, right? Mercury's energy is all about communication, okay? the energy of Venus. Now, I forgot to mention this before, but this is very important for Mercury. Venus was in retrograde in Gemini. Gemini is an energy that is this fun energy that wants to get involved in everything. It wants to understand everything, take a little bit of everything, and kind of like be about it. It is the talkative, very all-knowing of neighborhood type of energy, the media especially. So when we think of that, and that even brings more stuff in when it comes to that Libran energy of retrograde energy, right? Demanding justice. Listen, justice in Gemini. Literally, Venus in retrograde in Gemini. Justice in the media. Justice in what is put out there. Justice in what is acceptable, right? Justice in what's going on in our neighborhoods. These are all things that have occurred during that Venus in retrograde process. And between May 13th to like June 25th, like we really have been seeing a lot of people standing up for a lot of what's going on that is incorrectly happening. Like it's wrong. It's things that are not being played, or being put at justice. There are things that are being ignored and things that need to start being put in the forefront, right? Those things that we are getting extremely vocal about. And it's crazy because then when you add that energy in and then right after that, you move into Mercury in retrograde, now we need to think about everything we posted, everything we said, how we cursed people out because they didn't want to wear a mask regardless of how we felt about it. Because I'll be completely honest, I don't really like wearing a mask, but I know that if I'm required to wear one, I have to wear one in certain situations to make other people feel safe, right? That energy of like mutual respect. It's not always about me. Maybe it's about making sure everybody else is okay, even though it doesn't harm me, even though my own personal views, it's not just about me. These are things that, we are thinking about in the retrograde. Lord knows there's been many a times that I probably have vocalized how I don't think, this makes a lot of sense when it comes to wearing masks because of how small the molecule of COVID is. So it just didn't make sense to me that like, if it says that it's going to travel in eyes and travel in, the way we talk, whatever, like anything that has to do with, wet areas in the body that are open, like things like that. I'm just kind of like, why are we wearing a mask? It just didn't make sense to me. However, when I look back at what I say, I've also posted things saying things like breathing in your own carbon dioxide and things like that. And then I think about it and I'm like, well, doctors wear masks all day. So that doesn't make sense. Now, those are my personal views, so please don't come for me. And if you don't, I really don't give a shit because I could care less. But like my point of what I'm saying to you is more so about now I have kind of been already processing how a lot of the stuff that I previously posted out of declaring justice are things that might necessarily have more of a sensitive value than I gave, enough homage to. Like on some real, there's a lot of things that were posted in the last 3 months that I probably can go back and be like, but I was just so into what I was trying to say and wasn't actually like really, really, really paying attention to how it might affect somebody else and make somebody else feel uncomfortable. And these are things like, yeah, I'm all about peace. I'm all about love. And like in many ways, I can even tell myself maybe love was getting people to realize that this is ridiculous. But then it's also like, okay, but is that your version of love or is that love in general? And that's something that we need to be humble enough to think about. And these are things that are being processed when we're thinking about what we previously said in this case of Mercury and Cancer in retrograde. So yes, now that we talked about the aspect of it being in retrograde, let's talk about it specifically being in Cancer. Okay, Cancer energy, the reason why this energy is something that made me want to come up here and make a video is because Cancer energy has to do with our roots, right? Now, I said earlier with Taurus energy that the root energy is really coming from like connecting with your senses and realizing that you're in a body and you're a spirit going through this human experience. Regardless of how you feel about it, you're in it. You need to connect with it. If you're going to learn anything, you can't just keep acting like, okay, well, I'm an alien as much as I want to, because trust me, I am an Aquarius rising. I know I'm an alien, but it's not the point. If I brought myself here, I have to go through the things, right? And that's what that Taurus energy is connecting to those things. Sorry if my microphone's making sounds, I'm stretching my legs. But when it comes to Cancer energy, Cancer energy is important to understand roots as far as where we come from, right? Where we come from, in the sense of where you feel like you come from, connecting you to those areas. Now, ironically, what was going on in my life when I lost my sister, a lot of, pain really came up because I hid a lot of things from myself. I pushed a lot of things so far down that, like, when it all came up, it was like, yeah, I felt this way about death, but I also had, like, I can't say this word for the life of me, compartmentalized, I think that's how you say it, but separated. I like to say separated, but if you guys know what I mean by that word, that big word that I cannot say, compartmentalized, I think that's how you say it. But yeah, I separated this stuff that happened with me and my sister, as far as, like, all the positive things and, like, all the memories and things that made me love my sister. It's like I had to separate that because I was watching my sister go through alcoholism, and it was really driving me, like, into a really dark place, because I was like, how do these things happen when, like, we were raised by our mom, who, like, yeah, my mom has not always been the most understanding mom sometimes, because she's a mom, she's a human being. And how many times did we go through that where, we feel like our parents don't get us, or our parents are just, like, out to get us because we want to do something that they're telling us, like, we can't do or shouldn't do. And, like, they may not understand where we're coming from because we live a different life, or vice versa, right? So it's like all those things, when I think of it, it still didn't amount to being reasons why, like, my sister would do that. And there's other reasons of, in my personal life that I know about why my sister took the route that she did. But in order to cope, at one point, the only thing I could do was separate. I could only separate. All I could do was just take all the memories and put them in a mental box and just kind of leave them in the corner. And then eventually that corner developed a bunch of cobwebs because I never revisited it until my sister passed away. And then all of this shit just came up. So after that video that I made that was so positive, it was like I still went through a lot of, awareness that I kind of, like, let go off. And regardless of how I feel, again, about death, and regardless of how I understand it on a level of accepting it, it's still, I had to go through the emotions of acceptance. I might have skipped a couple of steps in grief, what I thought I skipped a couple of steps, but I went right to the part that I actually separated, which was the acceptance area, and it came right back. That's even more proof. If you ever put something to the side and you ever feel like, I'm just not going to deal with it, it's going to come back. So the earlier you deal with it and just accept it, the better off you are, because when whatever triggers it, I'm telling you right now, it is the most uncomfortable feeling. And that usually is what occurs when we are in relationships that are better for us, right? When we think about how many of us have been in relationships that haven't been really the best, and it's like you get into something healthy, and it's actually said that the healthy relationship that's after the abusive relationship is actually the most challenging one, because you have to actually accept someone loving you after that, and that is hard. I don't care how much someone wants to make it seem like it's easy, but if you deal with an abusive relationship and you get into something healthy, it's like culture shock. Like, it's completely different, and you are always thinking of the reasons why things are going to go wrong, or, why did they really do what they do? Is it because they actually care? No. Why do they care? No, because such and such didn't care. So what makes them care? It's really like a brain screw, to be honest. And, like, that being said, that's something that occurs when you are now going from a place that you know and that you're used to and that you're comfortable with to something that's completely different, and that you have to now let go of the past and be able to process what's actually happening in the present. So that being said, we went down a long one with that one, but it's all important. It's all important. These are things that you're going to be thinking about when it comes to that Cancer energy, is connecting with the home, things like your children or your parents, or, where you're from. There might be a situation where maybe, like, especially with quarantine, how many times we cannot see our loved ones, right? I mean, a lot of us kind of have been figuring out ways, but there are very much so people that are still in fear to a point where, they're really terrified to meet with their loved ones. I do believe that if it wasn't for my sister passing away, there probably still would have been a large area of time that I didn't see my mom. But even with that being said, I've seen my mom one time since my sister's passing. So it's like, that's also a big thing too, where it's like, there's a huge death in my family and I've only seen my mom once because there's still this lingering concern that's there that, like, God forbid anything were to happen. Like, I just don't want my mom to get sick because she's still in a grieving process, regardless of whether it's been a few days. She's doing very well now and she's in her process of accepting, but it hasn't been that long of a time. It's been a month and a half. So it's just like, it's not a long time. She's still getting over these things, and she very much so can be affected if she allows herself to be affected by, the thoughts of it. I do heavily believe, and this is just my belief, and respect to those that don't, but I do believe a lot of what we contract is also because our minds are actually accepting it, right? That is the reason why we do have to think about how we affect other people, because if someone is already processing in their brain that, like, they could get sick, there's already their body telling them that they can get sick. If there's a person that's like processing as, I'm not getting sick, I feel good, I'm good, whatever, their body is going to be less susceptible to contracting anything because they're already not accepting it through their mind. And the mind is the most powerful source that we have when it comes to how to connect with the knowing of some sort. So whatever your belief system is, the all being, the all knowing, like, that is our mind, that our crown chakra, like, that is the area that we're able to really connect. Our antennas on our head are really able to connect with the energies that are around us that we cannot necessarily sense in any other way physically, right? Unless we do connect those things. You can connect things when you connect energies to the spirit realm. You can still smell somebody so you know they're there. Things like that. Like, you're still bringing that energy into physical manifestation by connecting with your senses and then understanding that you can continuously connect them to higher energies, right? Higher powers, things that Taurus connects us with, right? Like, that's why Taurus love their sex, right? Because at the end of the day, you're connecting with a person, you're connecting with their energy, you're connecting with what they feel like inside and the heightened areas, right? Like, these are things that you can connect with when it comes to, the spirit realm and what's going on here if you pull it back in. But anyway, without going off on a full tangent, because that conversation can continue so many ways. And if you guys are interested in me making a video that has to do with, I'm sorry, I'm fuzzy, has to do with that topic, oh my God, that is such a rabbit hole, but I will make one. But anyway, back to the energy of the Cancer energy with Mercury. Now, that Cancer energy is very, 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 it's reflective energy naturally, right? Cancer energy is very like crab out of the shell energy. It is so sweet. It has its little crabby moments where it, like, tries to be all tough because it knows it's soft and gooey inside. And if it doesn't protect itself, God forbid, it is just going to go on a long stretch of just tears, my dear. My best friend is going to hate me. Well, number one of my best friends is a Taurus, so she's probably going to laugh at this video, but my other best friend who is a Cancer is going to hate me because I'm going to use her as an example in the fact of, I love her to death, but she will completely admit, with being a Cancer, that she has her moments. She will, sometimes I'll call her and I will not hear from her for days at a time. And then I finally speak to her and she'll be like, oh, I was just in my moment. I just needed a couple of days of crying. And I'm like, what? Like, you just need days to just cry and empty out. Like, it's just all this emotion that Cancers get. They're so receptive. They pick up on so much going on around them that they just, like, they have to get it out in order to really be present again, to take in more information, because they usually are the people that we go to when we need somebody to listen. They're always there to kind of process what you think, but, like, in many ways, they're a ball full of everyone's emotions because of it, because they're some of the most trustworthy people that you have in the world. As long as you don't piss someone off, because then they know a lot of information. But as far as that's concerned, that Cancer energy just wants to kind of house itself in, its own world. It will close its shell just like a crab and kind of like be in itself. And very similar to womb energy, right? Being a womb. Like, it's the energy of like, now that you're in the womb, you really are able to find that security, find that energy that, you feel solid in. You can feel the warmth of your mother, right? You can feel the warming energy of like being secure in your mom, connected at every sense, and like being nurtured, right? Because that Cancer energy is all about nourishment and nurturing energy. So when we bring Mercury in retrograde to this area right here, this is going to make us extremely emotional, extremely receptive, extremely, I wouldn't even say careful. This could really take us to a place where we get so sensitive that we start to react in our egos, right? Because that's what happens when you're sensitive. You can trigger an emotion that makes you so uncomfortable that you feel like you have to show the masculine and more dominant side of yourself, which is your sun sign. So you might actually get people who stretch anywhere from being emotional to where they're quiet to people that are just just lashing out at people, because it's like once you process, right? Once you process that you've had an energy or you've said something that might not necessarily be a good thing, if you're a type of person that can't handle being wrong, it might trigger something for you to make you think that now, like, you got to justify it. So you're like continuously like, well, I did it because of this and this is what happened and da 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 da, because it's like this part of you that knows you're dead ass wrong, but it's just like, I'm just going to keep defending myself because I know I'm wrong and I don't want to actually admit it to myself. So this could even be that energy for people where people start looking back at what they said and they're just like, oh my God, I really screwed that up, or I really made that person feel uncomfortable, right? Made the other people feel uncomfortable, or I didn't take into consideration their feelings and their emotions, and it can make you feel really terrible, to the point where you start to beat yourself up, and anybody that stands in your way also gets, the joining of the company, because misery loves company. So they might continuously talk bad about themselves to the point where the people that are around them, they want them to feel just as bad, and they might start poking at stuff that they do wrong. So this energy, as much as you might search it on the internet and it might tell you that it's very more so just receptive energy, I don't necessarily think that. I think it really depends on the type of individual, because anytime you enter a sensitive area, if you're not ready for that information, if you're not ready to accept it, it can really put you in a position where you can even just, like I said, just have a complete hissy fit of that energy. So let's go over the dates, and then let's also talk about like the areas as well that you might be thinking of and dive a little bit deeper. So Mercury is, I explained the pre-shadow and the retrograde period as well as post-shadow. So let me give you those 3 dates. So Mercury went into pre-shadow on June 2nd, and then it went into the retrograde period on the 18th. So from the 2nd to the 18th, it was in the pre-shadow period, and then it went retrograde on the 18th of June, and it will be in retrograde until it goes direct on July 12th, okay? That being said, after it goes direct on July 12th, it will then go into its post-shadow period until the 26th of July. So it seems like it's a long time, but it's actually like, it really is beautiful energy. A lot of people will get like all dramatic as hell. I'm sorry, it's dramatic. I'm also like, I'm a earth sun sign and 2 air signs when it comes to my moon and my rising. So a lot of things I'm just like, it's not that serious. But it's mainly the fact that like, it's really not that bad. If you know how to prep, here's my Virgo speaking. If you know how to prepare, you know how to use the energy, then like, just let it flow. Let it flow. Libra and Aquarius, just like, let it happen. Let it do its thing. Like, don't be scared about it. These energies are not here as doomsdays. They're really not. It's just energy that's like anything else. If you look on your app when you're trying to go to the beach, you look at it to see what the weather is, right? You look at it to make sure, is it worth going to the beach? Is it going to rain? Things like that. That's basically what this is. And it's really important to understand that information when it comes to what's going on in this, above the sky of what we see, because as above, so below. So from a larger spectrum, it's just saying that utilize the energy as a way to make it work for you, right? If it's raining, it's the perfect time to maybe watch a movie, maybe just like relax in your room and just meditate. Some people make love, some people like to draw, or they like to whatever, organize in the rain. I mean, I don't typically like to organize in the rain. I think like that's just too much, it's competing energies, but I love to organize because of my Virgo energy. But like I would probably do something a lot more relaxing during rain, right? I get excited for the rain because now that I have my plant set up, I'm like, ooh, it looks so pretty, and I get to just like watch it, and it's soothing. These are things that happen when it rains. So if I look at the weather and I see it's raining, I'm not necessarily crying that I can't go outside. It's just like, all right, let's just utilize the energy. It's not a big deal. Same thing. If it's like super hot outside, all right, let's go to the beach. It'll be cooler over there. It's not like, oh my God, I'm going to be sweating and da da da. It's just like, make it work. Make it work. Everything is not always going to be one way. You need variation for you to be able to compare things and see how things work and utilize different energies for different things. It's not always supposed to be one way. That is boring. It teaches you absolutely nothing, right? So this is totally fine that we're entering in. Oh my God, this little fuzzies, they're like going in my eyes, and I look like, I'm like, ooh. But yeah, this is that energy that you can use for different things, and take it for what it is. Like Mercury in retrograde is working on communication of all styles, and what loving energy for it to be in but Cancer energy, where it really, really genuinely cares about someone else's sensitivity. It's really, really important for us to be sensible in many times and not just see the world as just our own view, but in other people's view, and be sensitive towards other energies. Let's also talk about what Mercury also stands for, because it's not just communication. Mercury also stands for, I don't want to say lower education, but more I would say local education. Whereas, the reason why I say local education, because Mercury rules both Gemini and Virgo. So that being said, these are, again, two different spectrums when you think of like Taurus and Libra energy. They're very similar when it comes to styles of like luxury and things like that, but they're very different in nature as far as what they really need to their core. So when you think of Mercury, Mercurian energy as far as like Gemini, right? It is the energy of needing to be in every little thing and to understand. So it also can lead to gossip in many ways. So when you take that area of like gossip in retrograde in Cancer, it might put you into a place where you're like, damn, I should have been more sensible about what this person told me, and I went back to this person and I just like told all this information that was probably not my place, things like that. Or it could also be, again, media, right? Gemini energy is media energy. It runs the media, where Sagittarius, which is opposite from it, is like foreign ideas, right? It's foreign, more so, I wouldn't say foreign media, but I would say foreign concepts, because Sagittarius is the voyager. It will go out to other areas to get the information. So it's not going to just be like what's on TV. It's like, okay, well, what's happening in Europe? What's happening in Greece? What's happening in Africa? Like things like that. That's more of Sagittarius energy. Gemini energy is more about like what's happened locally, what's happening in the neighborhood. So this is an area too to be more sensible about, because I can't tell you how many people are being extremely vocal right now about a bunch of stuff, especially with so many things going on at once with the quarantine and Black Lives Matter and like just like the political ideas of voting and all. There's just so much going on right now. Obviously COVID, but I'm so like, I just don't even want to mention that at this point anymore, but it's true. This is one of those moments of like, it's reality. These are things that we need to be thinking about. And these are things that like, we also need to be processing when we're communicating. And that being said, there's a lot of stuff in the media that has been posted too, not just like ourselves, but the media in a whole, right? The media, there's going to be a lot of things that come out that we're going to be looking and reflecting on. Like, they posted that. That doesn't make sense. they said this, it doesn't match up with this. These are things that you're going to be going through. It's not just on a personal basis, but as a society as well. So if you catch things that were said on TV or in, on the news reports or whatever, and those are things that they're not really accurate, they don't hold like fact-based things, you're going to catch stuff like that right now because it is a very reflective mode of media type of things as well. So that being said, with Gemini energy, also Gemini energy is like just like random like activities as well. Geminis love to get involved in multiple different activities as far as like just learning a little bit about everything enough to feel like they understand everything or just kind of can hold up a conversation. Understanding even like new people that moved into the neighborhood, things like that. Geminis definitely are always the ones that know what's going on around them. And because of it, these are also things that are going to be taken in consideration when it comes to reflection mode. So again, we're now tapping into those areas of ourselves where we're like, all right, well, this person just moved in. Maybe I was kind of snippy to them, right? Like this is such a funny story. I totally slightly got snippy with my neighbor because when I moved in, there was this big dog poop that was outside of my backyard, and I was so mad about it because I was like, what the heck? Like, why can't you just pick up your dog poop? I just don't understand. So there's this man and his family who like own this garden that's by my house that I'm so blessed to have, and I love it, and it kind of inspired me to do all this stuff back here. But like, and I now have 20 plants in my house because of it. Whoa. But funny story is, so I didn't know who this man was. I just saw a huge dog that was like off a leash, and he was outside and he was running around and playing his catch and all this other stuff with the ball that he was throwing. And instead of like actually like knowing for sure that it was his dog, I like said something really snippy to him, and I was like, hey, because I saw his dog like poop in that area and I assumed he wasn't going to pick it up. It's also the size of the poop. I thought it was that dog. And so I say to him like, hey, are you going to pick that up? And he's like, yeah, I'm going to pick it up. And I was like, okay, well, you need to like be quicker because like somebody's been leaving dog poop everywhere all over this area. And like, I'm trying to make sure it's not you. And he's like, well, it's not me. I'm your neighbor and I live right here. And like, he didn't tell me, boastfully that he owned the garden that was right by my house either. But once I realized it, I'm like, all right, he owns a garden. He like, and it's like a neighborhood garden. He also like works at like the neighborhood nursery and like for like plants and stuff. And then like his family, like they kind of have they have two girls that like, the girl just graduated and they threw like a small little get together that was like really spreading love and light in the neighborhood for the young girl. And I'm just like, damn, I probably shouldn't have came at him like that, right? But that's that energy. And like, here I am walking by with Skylar one day, walking by this nursery while I'm taking Skylar for a walk. And I'm like, oh my God, it's my neighbor. He walks out. So I was just like, all right, I got to introduce myself because now he probably thinks I'm like this terrible person. So I introduced myself, got to know his name, and like he was super cool. And like every time I see him now, I kind of like give him like a little bit of a smile just to let him know like I'm not trying to like bite his head off like I was trying to do before when I thought that his dog was pooping in my area by my door. So my point is that we're going to be thinking of these things, right? These are things to think of. Again, Mercury energy is neighborhood energy too. So I'm thinking about things like this about, oh my God, like my neighbor, like I was so rude to him. Like this is not okay. And I need to be a lot nicer and more accepting to the fact that I may not know what I think I know. And maybe it's just a reaction, right? So that's an example. Mercury energy also, when I was explaining to you guys that Gemini energy is activities, right? Maybe we also reflect on things like that too. Maybe we did a bunch of different things, right? We had these crazy ideas and we just did a bunch of stuff, especially during quarantine, that like, maybe it was like we got involved in all these different projects and now we want to actually process which projects we actually enjoyed and what we want to continue. And like, if we got ourselves involved in like yoga or like, maybe some of us got involved in like carpentry or whatever the case may be. These are things that you want to continue and you want to take with you in the next thing. So you might like actually reflect on that and be like, all right, let's see where this really goes. Like, or let's see how I can apply this to my life now that like I have this new thing. I really enjoy it. And now we're about to go back into a schedule, a daily schedule. If we open things back up, how will I now take my new activity and apply it to my schedule now? So these are things, again, it stems from so many different areas of what you're going to be reflecting on. Mercury energy, let's also go into Virgo. Health, very, very important right now, right? Healthy energy, Virgo energy. Actually, I just seen, so this is kind of cool because I see a question that says, what is Virgo energy? So, again, I probably will be posting this also on YouTube. So just letting you guys know on YouTube when you watch this that this is originally Facebook Live. So that's why I can see messages. Hi to everybody that said hi. I just didn't want to interrupt my thought because it will go right out my head. But to answer the question of what is Virgo energy, let's talk about that because that's also what this Mercury energy is about in retrograde, right? So Virgo energy is really about, let's talk about what Virgo really is at this, like, first, right? Virgo is around the time period where that's when we kind of start coming inside. It's like the transfer. It's considered to be the mutable area of the seasons, right? So when you think of tropical, that particular astrology setting versus like Vedic astrology uses the constellations, and with tropical it's all about like the seasons. So with that Virgo energy in the seasons, that's during the area of where we are kind of merging ourselves from summer into fall. It's the mutable energy of trying to understand the different weather systems, the crops that are around us. It's all that areas of bringing things inside. So Virgo energy is known to be the energy that's a little bit critiquey, and it's the reason why is because Virgos are responsible for bringing the crops to the village that they can last long and that it keeps healthy, the village healthy during the seasons that crops cannot grow, right? The plants or the vegetables and stuff cannot grow because during the seasons of winter, everything is cold and snowed over. So it's really important for Virgos to be very narrow, like they kind of narrow things down and make sure that everything is like in a healthy state so that way when it feeds the villages, nobody gets harmed. So that is the reason why. And I'm so glad to explain this. If you have a Virgo friend in your life, we are awesome. I am not going to go ahead and talk about the bad parts of Virgo other than the parts that we can also be very parasitic because we are really good at narrowing things down so we can really know what buttons to push and what areas are important to be clingy and manipulative. So I'm definitely not going to say that's not a thing because every sign has its like dark shadow side. But that being said, on a positive note, Virgo energy is that constructive criticism styled energy that is going to pretty much be the ones who are like, hey, you're really cool. I like you. But you need to fix this area right here. That is us. Oh my God, it drives everybody crazy. And we really don't mean any harm by it, but it's just like we are really we're like, we love everything that we see, but then if we see something that's a little off, we're just kind of like trying to help you out and just letting you know, like, this is how you can be perfect though. Even though perfect doesn't exist, right? Perfect is not a thing, but in the brain of a Virgo, let me tell you, oh my goodness, we are just like, I want to fix them, right? They could be fixed. Everything could be fixed. Everything, we don't even really get involved in things unless it can be fixed, right? Like, if everything is fine, we're just like, what? Okay, so what am I doing here, right? Everything looks good. We will probably find something, guaranteed, excuse me. We will probably absolutely find something that can be fixed. And we're just as hard on ourselves. So newsflash to those people that have no idea, but like Virgos, we are hard on ourselves. The same way that we are hard on you, or the same way you might think that we think you are terrible because we pointed out like one little thing, like we do the same things to ourselves. We are very much so the people that's like, listen, I don't want this getting out to any single person unless like it's perfect, right? Like I need to make sure, like Funny thing, I was just talking to my roommate about this. It's hilarious, but it's so the truth. All these, like, everything's opening up, right? Everything's opening up. And so I had an audition today. I'm not going to say who because I don't feel like, once it's gone on YouTube, it's weird. But I had an audition today that was a virtual audition. And so it's a singing audition. And so they had an area where, like, you were able to just go online and click and, like, say, I'm ready for my audition or whatever. And then you go and you sing. And then after you're done singing, once you're done, you submit it. Well, the thing was acting crazy. Now, I'm sure part of it also had to do with, like, the Mercurian energy of, like, you know, Mercury in retrograde. But, like, naturally, I was just sitting there like, seriously? Here goes my Virgo. Ready? Excuse me. Prepare yourselves. Seriously? Like, this is what goes, like, drives me bananas. Why would you, like, do something and you didn't even think it out? You didn't organize it. You didn't make sure that it actually made sense. You just send whatever and, like, hope for the best. Like, that's crazy. It's so tactless. Like, what were you thinking? Like, your name is on this and you just, like, let this happen. It drives me nuts. And I'm cracking up as I'm saying it because I'm like, this is totally Virgo energy of, like, perfect it before you present it, right? This is probably like the craziest quote that probably every Virgo feels like, but perfect it before you present it. Because if you can't take a few minutes to kind of narrow things down and organize them, do you really care about it at that point? Like, the way that you present something shows how much you care, right? If your name is on it. So it is very much so that energy of that. That being said, we're not that bad. We really also rule the area of health, right? Because let's think of it this way. If you have a bunch of doctors and nurses, especially that are working on, like, the COVID floors in a hospital, they have to definitely make sure that they follow specific protocols or make sure that they're being very attending to their patients in a way where they're kind of like making sure things are organized and narrowing things down and not like just making impulsive actions, because you can really hurt somebody's health that way. So it's like really important too that, like, when we think of the energy of Virgo, like, Virgo is going to be that surgeon that will have such a steady hand that it's like they can swoop out whatever infection and not knock into the other areas of the body, because it's so well planned and well prepared in our minds. We really map things out before we actually go in. So we're really good at, like, small, very small details, microscopic details. We're very good at those things because of the fact that we want to make sure that everyone is safe and that nothing goes wrong, because God forbid if anything goes wrong, there goes the panic, right? If you know any Virgos, we have the worst nervous systems it's ridiculous. It's to the point where, like, we are so nervous. We want to make sure that everything is good. Everything's probably, because if something goes wrong, we feel like we just now everything's all over the place. Now we have to, like, go back to square one. And, like, there's this, like, inner dying inside of just being like, oh my God, now I have to fix it even more. And I just fixed it like this. And now I got to go back to square one. And it's just like the anxiety and nervousness that comes with that, the blame that comes with that, right? Like, that shit is not fun. So thinking about how this now applies to that Mercurian energy that's going in retrograde, this is really important, because when we think about the things that mean something to us, that we want to keep healthy and want to keep fresh and want to keep aware and want to keep blooming and growing without any infection or without any need to go back and start over and reorganize, like, these are things that we're going to be actually thinking about and reflecting over. These are things that are extremely important. These are things that are going to now tap into an area of sensitivity with that Cancer energy of being like, okay, now with the sensitivity of Cancer, I have to be able to plan things out more organized in a way that will get me further and where I won't mess up, right? I'm pretty sure that particular program that I auditioned for, they're probably going to have a lot of videos that are really, like, jacked up, right? And, like, there's going to be some people that where they would probably have millions of auditions, it might now be, like, way less than that, because somebody in the tech area didn't perfect a certain thing that made you, like, enter in that video and make sure it went through. So it's like, because of that, you're affecting so many other people and what they're doing. And that's that Virgo Mercurian energy of, like, making sure that the smallest detail could, like, change everything. And, like, that small detail, like making sure that like you're on point with that, can like make things grow, or it can just completely destruct something. And those are things that we're going to be reflecting on. Where are those areas in our lives? Where are the areas in our life that we need to think about, okay, well, I have to change this thing because this will jeopardize the rest of my health if I don't change this about myself, right? If I don't stop eating, I'll give you a perfect example. I cannot eat a ton of bread because for me, eating so much bread will actually jeopardize certain areas of my health and make me get certain like illnesses that I don't necessarily want. But I'm sure anybody that knows about eating a ton of bread can understand that it could cause things like that. So like if I just eat a ton of bread, like I really have to map out how much bread I eat. So like I can totally eat like I love pizza and I love making my own pizza, and anybody that like really follows me on social media knows I love cooking. So like if I make a pizza one day, I can't like have tacos the next day with like a shit ton of tortillas. Like that's too much bread. I have to kind of like split everything up because making that one decision can cause me to get sick if I like go ahead and continue to do it. Like it's not good for me, right? So that's just an example. It's like kind of like then I would be reflecting over like, okay, so I know that. So when I go food shopping, I know that I have to make sure that I kind of like map things out where it's like, okay, so I have pizza this day. I can have my tacos, but probably like maybe like 3 or 4 days later. And then in between that time, I should probably have things that don't have too much bread content in them. So like I can have like fish with a vegetable or something like that. Or I can have like, even like I have to be careful of starches, right? So like I can't have potatoes or something like that. It still falls in the same family of like sugary things, because that's really what it boils down to with how I could get sick, is just having too much sugar. Or even like the idea of alcohol, right? If I have like bread, like pizza, and then I have like tacos like 3 days, 4 days later, I still have to watch my content of like even down to honey, because there's certain sugar, you can't have too much of sugar. Like, so these are things, just giving you examples of like what somebody might be processing when it comes to thinking about things that might affect their health. Even down to what's going on. Again, I don't really want to talk too much about COVID, not because I don't respect what's going on, but because it's everywhere and it's like becoming overwhelming. And I'm trying to kind of get you guys to really be in a space with me where you're not worrying, even though like it's honesty. If you are, I'm sorry about that. But I do want to be real about it. And like, especially with COVID, we're thinking about all the things that we could do that kind of will make people feel safer. So the malls are opening up, the salons are opening up, things are opening up. And realistically speaking, like this might be not really the great time to do that, because this is new, and we're reflecting. So this is going back to like what I was explaining to you guys earlier, with the sense of you don't really start something new in a retrograde. Now, again, not everybody in this world follows astrology. So I don't believe that, people would be like in, offices like, we have to make sure that we don't start in retrograde. But it's just going to show you, though, that like there's already being effects now. Now, like apparently the numbers are starting to go up and stuff like that. Again, depends on what your belief system is. Some people do not feel like that's legit, and they might think the media is starting to stir things up again. That's possible too. But again, it's causing buzz. It's causing buzz where it's not going away. Like regardless, the numbers are going up, whether it's, real or not. I'm not even going to get into that, but I'm just saying that like the numbers are actually going up, and it's because we're opening, and everybody's rushing. But there's so much going on that like people are not thinking about, like not even kidding you. I almost got into an argument with somebody at the restaurant because they delivered we thought we were going to get service there from a waiter, or a waitress. And when we got there, we found out we had to order online. It was like to go online, like at sitting down. So we could eat outside at the restaurant, but it's like you might as well have just ordered to go and just like sat anywhere, like a park or something. It was the same thing. So we went there, and then we got our food about 40 minutes later. And that was just like pissing us off because we already were like drinking our $15. Let us sit with you. $15 margaritas. This is not New York City. Thanks. Anyway, so we're drinking our $15 margaritas that have like 3 times the amount of like well liquor, right? Because like, let's be honest, like nobody's trying to drink well liquor as it is, and now you have like 3 times the amount. So we're drinking $15 worth of that, because that's definitely not $15. But anyway, rant over with that. But yeah, so we're drinking them. So we're like halfway down, and like, so we're already feeling buzzed because we're still waiting for our food. And like, we get our food 40 minutes later and there's no forks. So we had 2 things of rice that were like, okay, so how are we going to eat this? And then I go up to the front to go, talk to the woman about it and ask for forks. And she got nasty with me because I didn't have a mask on. And I like, in my brain, I'm like, well, I don't have a mask on, but I'm outside, and like, we're on this small, skinny street that all these people have walked by naturally, just walking their dogs or whatever with no mask. And I'm standing more than 6 feet away from you, and I just want a fork. And yet at the same token, as you're getting an attitude with me, I'm kind of like, there's also straws sitting right there, and like, they're just open. Like, you just have them there for people to grab them. So technically speaking, if we're going by these ideas of what is being put out, you're now grabbing a straw, walking away, and someone's coming and grabbing a straw too. So meanwhile, while you're complaining that I'm possibly making you sick, being 6 feet away from you, there's still straws that are being touched, or even like money that's being passed, right? Cash, like, things that just don't make sense, like things like that are just like, these are things we're going to start reflecting on, because a lot of companies are opening up. This is the first time that they've ever dealt with something like this, and we're kind of like processing the ways to work around it, but we're also not doing a lot of things either that we should be doing too. So it's like, this is probably not the most appropriate energy to kind of like open things up with. But again, it's like, we're going to learn as we go, right? That's all we can do. And again, we can utilize this energy of like the way that we're kind of processing what's going on as a way to kind of like look at our future stuff, right? Everybody that's opening up can now take into all the considerations of like what's going on as far as, the COVID, or just in general. Like, I mean, me being a Virgo, I'm being honest, a lot of y'all are cleaning stuff that like I would have done that before COVID existed, because as a Virgo, I'm like, clean everything, clean it all, scrub it. It needs to be clean. I'm just this happy person watching everybody wash their hands, watching everybody like not wanting to hug me. I'm just like, oh my God, the hygiene is just amazing compared to what it used to be. This is heaven for me when it comes to that. So like, just saying, like, these are things that you might actually be processing when it comes to like other areas of how you're building your rules in your salons or in your stores or whatever. You just might kind of like be taking in sensibility for other people. That being said, there's certain stores that are kind of like being more lenient on people coming in without masks, because they don't want their customers getting in arguments with like their employees and causing that weird divide of like political views on what's going on. So like, they just don't say anything when you like walk in the store without a mask on, right? But then again, when you put yourself in Mercury in retrograde in Cancer, you're going to be a little bit more sensible. Like, okay, yeah, I did that because for me it made sense, but you might actually process it later and be like, damn, I wasn't being sensible about other people. So these are just examples of like how that would go with that. Same thing, like, this is going to be a time, I guarantee it, okay? Guarantee it. There are a lot of doctors and nurses that were pulled out of their units of what their specialties are to work on the COVID floors, right? Or to work with people who might have some health issues that might align with the specific, what's the word I'm looking for? It's probably not going to come to me, but I'm going to say, lack for a better word, the criteria. Oh, the symptoms. That's what I was going to say. Okay. So based off of the symptoms, they might be, working with those people that might have similar symptoms with what's going on, or even other illnesses. And, different people were pulled all over from different floors to just be on the emergency floor or to be in the COVID unit. So like, that being said, this is times that they're going to also process what was going on during those time periods, because these are our healthcare workers. These are people that, they are still like processing everything that's going on, and how did I take care of that person correctly? Did I like make sure that I did everything that I could? Things like that. These are all going to be processed, or even how they were treated. I wouldn't be surprised if there were stories that came out And this is why I said I almost guarantee it. There's probably going to be stories of more doctors and nurses coming out being concerned about things that have occurred on the floor that they may not necessarily agree with, or, it's already starting to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's even more stuff that comes out. Or it can also even be our, just in the general, like, daily stuff too, right? Because when you think of sixth house energy, which is ruled by Virgo, okay, traditionally ruled by Virgo, that's like the style of that energy that's in that house. It also has to do with our daily activities. So we are going to very much so be reflecting on what we do a day-to-day basis, what we feel like we need to connect to. Now, there is a triangle in the birth chart of 3 houses that really help us understand what our best areas of work are. And that's the second house, the sixth house, and the 10th house, right? Second house being self-value, which we were just discussing, okay? Sixth house being the area of where it's our day-to-day, what we go through on a daily basis and our daily activities. And then 10th house being our public image. So when you kind of bring those 3 together, it creates that like try of understanding what someone should do in their everyday base to base to deliver a certain public image and to create self-value. And in many ways, we will relate that to what's identified as a career. That being said, it's interesting because we just went through Venus retrograde when it comes to like self-value and what makes us understand value. And then now we're stepping to an area of reflection where we're becoming a lot more sensible about the areas of our life of what we want to do on a day-to-day basis, right? A lot of us are on unemployment and we're kind of like getting paid even more money than we were making when we were working. Some of us haven't been, and, God bless to those that haven't been or haven't received unemployment. But it really starts to channel in the idea that like, maybe you didn't like your job before, and these are things you're going to reflect on. Like, you know what? I still have a month left of this $600 a month plus like unemployment. So it's like, do I really want to go back to work? Like that place that I hated and the place that like didn't really fulfill what I wanted to have. Like these are things that you're going to actually go through. And this is the second area of that career triangle. So it's like, very much so when we start to lead into the area of bringing in public image now, which would probably, actually, it's coming. Interesting enough, the next full moon, when the full moon's in Cancer, there will be this balance. Well, technically the full moon will be in Capricorn because the sun will be in Cancer. So there will be this balance where it will kind of come together. You had that kind of reflection mode that you were going through in that area of self-value, and then you bring it over to the area of, okay, well, what do I want to do on a day-to-day basis? And now here is that full moon that happens in Capricorn. I'm going to try to look up the date to kind of give you guys an idea of when that's going to happen. And it's going to kind of give you a balance factor of what that energy of what you've been feeling, the Cancer energy, the sensible energy. It will give you those factors of like what means something to you. So now that you know these things, you can actually make the right decision on where you want to go back into, like the public image you really want to have. And that's not just career. That's also just like how your stance on political views, right? Because Capricorn energy is also politics. It's government things. So it really has to do with that whole thing, political views. It has to do with how you see yourself in society, or to what your public image is, right? That's a really, really, really big thing. I'm looking up right now the dates for you guys, so that way we do know about the Capricorn full moon, and you guys will have access to that, so you know how to work with that energy. Let's see. The June 5th eclipse will be a full, okay, not this one. We also did have an eclipse as well. Oh, I think we actually just went through this. Yes. Silly me. Full moon in Sag on June 5th. I gotta look into it because, okay, here we go. Eclipse season is here. We just did have a new moon eclipse. I do know that. Our new moon eclipse was in Cancer on June 21st. It just passed. So that's a big thing that's there too. I just want to get, and if anybody can pull it up, that would be awesome, as far as what the date is for the next full moon with the Cancer energy in Capricorn. Okay, where is it? At the summer solstice on June 20th, the sun, oh, it just went away. Where are you? Dance new. Well, as I'm looking this up, I'll also continue with talking about how this will affect everything too. I do know that we had the full moon in Sagittarius on June 5th. So it should be coming up soon because Capricorn would be next for full moon energy. And we did have our new moon eclipse in Cancer on June 21st. So it will be within the next week or so, most likely. It's usually about a 2 week stretch between the two moons because they wax and wane, the full moon. I mean, not full moon, the moon waxes and wanes. So I'm just trying to look up. Okay, it's probably in July. Yeah, it's in July. That's why the date's not coming up. Okay, so full moon, here it is. So July 5th will be the full moon in Capricorn at 13 degrees and 37 minutes of Capricorn. And that will be around the energy, July 5th, well, you will kind of start putting things together where it's like now that you went through the self-value, now that you went through the daily ideas of understanding things, you will kind of come to a place on July 5th, that area where you're kind of like, okay, so now that I went through these things, I want to know who I want to be to my community. Who am I? Where is my stance? Where am I seeing myself at? Right? These are things that you're going to get to at that point because at that point, it's going to be kind of like a revamp of who you are. There's going to be some kind of death and rebirth of some sort. There'll be like a part of you that will die in the sense of who you were and who you want to become, right? That's that idea of death and rebirth that can be a beautiful sense as well. So yeah, these are all things that you will be reflecting on when it comes to Mercury and retrograde in Cancer. Sorry, excuse me. Now, that being said, there's a few other placements that I think are very important to understand. I know this video was supposed to be on Mercury. It was characterized as Mercury and retrograde in Cancer, but it did say other planetary stuff because there's a lot going on right now. But we won't dive too deep as the other ones because those were the main ones. But let's also take in consideration that we also have Mars entering Aries on June 27th, so tomorrow. Okay? What this means, Mars is our drive. Mars is the part of us that actually makes us go out and do something. It is about the energy that makes us get up and act, okay? It also is connected to sexual dynamics because it's what gets us off in that sense. Like what gets us going. That's really like that sense of like, not what gets us off, but what gets us to want to be a part of something. That's that Mars energy. Mars in Aries is probably one of its favorite places to be in, okay? The reason why is because Mars rules Aries. Now, this could be wonderful or this could be really bad. It depends on the person, okay? Naturally speaking, Mars is in a happy place here because Mars is like, okay, now I feel like I got my, like, I'm in my happy place. It's like, Aries is like Mars's shower, right? It's like, yes, all right, I'm getting clean. This is Virgo energy again talking, so don't mind me. But yes, I'm getting clean. I'm fresh to death. I'm ready to go. It's like that Mars energy is ready to do it, ready to take off. It's like, it's just in its place. So definitely when it gets around like June 27th, which is tomorrow, I keep saying when it gets around, like it's going to be next week. But around tomorrow, you're really going to start to feel like it could be one or two things. It could be like, okay, let's rear things up. Right, we're opening, we're doing this. Cool, let's go. Let's go to TJ Maxx. Let's go take my package back out of the 40 package that I ordered. I'm going to take back 10 of them and send them back and let's get out there. Let's do this. Like it might be that energy or it might also stir up some shit because now again, it might enter into this energy of where like whatever you have been processing over this retrograde and what you're currently currently processing right now during the retrograde is something that might also set you on fire. You might also feel as though, all right, now I have a place to where I can start some shit because all the stuff that people are starting to review, I can now take advantage of those things and now make these people feel like shit because of it, because they just posted their apologies. I can dive into a lot deeper. So it could be anywhere of that stretch of energy, or it could also just be at a place of like I said, just pure happiness, willing to work with the flow of nature right now and like that's something to really take into account of, okay? That being said, there's also another big one that hits is the fact that we just went in, Neptune is in retrograde now. We just went into retrograde when it comes to Neptune. Now, excuse me, Neptune is that energy where Neptune is Piscean energy. Okay, it's very loving energy. It is very dreamy and it is very illusion based. Okay, Neptune is the energy that could lead you into a drug habit or an alcohol habit that all aligns with the concept of escapism. And when you think of the Piscean energy that travels into the escapism areas, it does very much so turn into things like drugs and alcohol. Again, I love my sister, but that's a pure example, and I always vow to give examples of myself to help people understand things. And God, like, of course, I love my sister, and I'm not saying this to embarrass the situation, but to be honest, my sister is a Pisces, and she a lot of the time wanted to escape away from her pain, so alcohol was a source of that for her. That's something that's very it's very natural for a Pisces to go into a place of like, not even just drugs and alcohol. It doesn't have to be like that. It could be video games. It could be art. It could be anything that will take them away from reality so they don't have to deal with the pains of reality. They are very good at the escapism when it comes to their shadow self. Again, I've already described the Virgo shadow self, and like naturally that the opposite energy of Pisces would do the opposite thing for its shadow self, which is to, instead of to be critiquey, it will be distant and kind of like, in many ways can be very petty. So that's that energy as well of like the Pisces escapism shadow self. And that being said, we're going to be thinking about that, right? Like, we're going to be thinking about those energies and reflecting on the areas of ourselves where we've kind of escaped from things instead of just dealing with stuff, right? Instead of just like actually doing it and getting it done, we're going to feel like we're going to be like, damn, I really could have done something else. I dropped the ball on that one. That being said, be careful of that, because having Mars in Aries on top of that is kind of complicated, because now, you might think, oh, okay, I didn't do something that I necessarily should have put more time and effort into. So then now you're like willing to like go do it. And it's like, we didn't hit direct yet. Like, just wait it out, just kind of reflect over it, give it some time to kind of like process, and then you can go ahead and act on it. Like, once you're done with that area, that's probably going to be a while from now, because Neptune is in retrograde beginning. It began on June 23rd and it's going until November 28th. I'm pretty sure the November 28th mark, when I looked up that date, would probably be the direct area. I do not have the dates written down for the post shadow, but I can tell you that it's going to be a while. It's going to be a little bit that we're kind of like realign with our dreams and our inspiration, because that's also Neptunian energy. It's dream energy, it's inspiration. When you think of Pisces energy is all about being the dreamer, about being the one that wants to spread love, and understanding that at the end of the day that life is a simulation and that it's all about love and love wins. That is totally Pisces energy. Sensitive energy, extremely sensible energy, in the sense of others' feelings. Cancer a little bit more sensible in actually acting on it with it when it comes to that, but Pisces is definitely one of those energies that's willing to listen and to kind of let you get out what you want to feel. It may not be as receptive as, then changing, but it will definitely listen in and give you a chance to explain if like it's necessary. And that being said, that's stuff that we're definitely going to be reflecting on. What are we not actually deciding once we even know that there's some poison there? We're still not moving. Like, why are we not picking things up and going? Why are we still seeing the damage that's there, but instead of actually making movement, we're actually just crying on our own pillow and like just like complaining about it over and over again? Like, what are we doing to change it? Because these are definitely things that a Pisces can get stuck in, is like, I know I need to change this, but I don't really want to even acknowledge it right now, because it's just, I want to be in my dream world, right? That's really like that Neptunian idea. So we have to tap into that. And this is going to be stretched out for a few months. So, I mean, honestly, I think this is awesome energy. I think it's really good energy into kind of disrupting illusions and to kind of make us break up with them and see that they're not actually doing anything for us. You know, one thing that I could definitely say that I've learned from my sorority, and I love this quote of the fact of like, excuses are literally fundamentals of nothing. They build bridges to nowhere. They lead to nothingness. Like literally it's gonna do nothing because it is of nothing energy. It's like no movement, no progress, no care. It's just like having an excuse of why you're not doing anything. And like, these are things that we're going to have to start reflecting on. And by November 28th, the cool part about it, which I absolutely love, is while we're reflecting on those energies, which I have to look to see exactly what sign it is in, but while we're reflecting on those energies, I'm sure there's a lot of things that we can talk about reflecting on energies that we're not creating movement in, right? Again, the election will be around that time. So it's like, what are we not doing that we need to be doing? And are we taking this into consideration when we're voting for our candidates? Like, these are things that we're going to be thinking about. I definitely want to look up this specific sign, Neptune in retrograde. It's honestly so funny because I love astrology so much, but at one point I would have to look up every single aspect and every single transit and try to like identify with it. And at this point, I am so blessed to say that like I understand each sign and each planet, so it's very easy for me to kind of like look things up and kind of know what's going to happen based off of the sign or based off of the planet. So a lot of times I find myself lately kind of slacking, and this could be one of the examples of what I mean by like thinking about and kind of going over what you do on a daily activity. You know, there was a point in time that I feel like understanding these placements really helped me work with their energies, and it kind of gave me some balance on how to think or how to utilize them that best was suiting. So this is probably one of the examples of what I would say would be a part of my retrograde of being like, you know what, I'm so happy I'm back up here talking to you guys, probably about a good hour in, but I'm so excited to just fill your cups with information that like, you know, I really feel like can help. And these are things that I need to continue to do more often. Having, you know, really tapping into the subjects that I wanted to talk about beforehand before I kind of like fell off of my series of conversation. So I'm so happy to be back. And if you guys want any videos, let me know. But so looking at where Neptune is going to be in retrograde, let's see. I believe it's actually in Pisces. Yep. So Neptune is in Pisces. Let's see. Neptune in Pisces enters its annual retrograde from June 22nd. Okay, sometimes the dates are off. So sometimes it'll say 22nd, sometimes it'll say 23rd, and it really has to do, or like the day after, I mean, it really has to do with where the time zone is and how, like, if you're on, like, the east or the west or even in other areas where, like, there's 6 hours ahead and stuff like that. So whoever created this site is obviously probably going to be forward, I guess, or no, might be behind. It depends on where the person is. But it does say Neptune in Pisces enters its annual retrograde from June 22nd or 23rd until, November 29th or 28th in some sense. So, that being said, and there's, Neptune going retrograde gives us a total of 6 planets in retrograde. So there's even more planets, but we're just going to cover the Neptune one, and then we can come back later and kind of cover the other stuff too. Later on, because I feel like we're kind of getting to a lot of information at this point, which is great, but I just don't want to give you guys too much. We'll definitely make another video of the other retrogrades that are going on. And it is retrograde season. It's definitely retrograde season or eclipse season. So yeah, but yes, we're definitely going to be going through a lot this year when it comes to really more so kind of like considering others, considering others, not just ourselves, being more sensitive. It's good energy. It's really good energy to be able to select the right candidate and stuff to be president or to be, in certain areas of the houses. Like it's just very, very, very good energy for that, because it offers a lot of reflection, but in an area that allows us to be sensitive. So this is really good. This is really good. And there's one other transit that I wanted to discuss, and then I am going to politely go finally eat something. Oh my God, it's almost 11 o'clock. Wow. I didn't realize I was talking this long. I didn't even eat dinner. Again, thinking about your health, what's important, what are you doing on your daily activities to where you're not doing things. Luckily, I already made food, so I'm very, very excited. I just have to eat it. But yeah, so I just wanted to talk about the placement of Jupiter conjunct Pluto. That is going to happen on June 30th. Okay, this is big, guys. This will be an energy that will be there for a little bit as well. Especially because Pluto doesn't really move that fast, and neither does Jupiter. So understand that. So conjunct means that they are going to be very close to each other. The way to understand conjunction is almost like understanding the concept of like a house, right? Because when we think houses, when we're talking about astrology, we're also talking about the areas of where the planets are connecting to each other. So if you are in the same house and you also are 5 degrees apart from each other, that means like in your natal chart, right? Let's say that you have Moon and Venus conjuncts, okay? Or I have Moon and Lilith conjunct. Interesting placement. In the 8th house. So let's say that you have 2 planets conjunct. They are really affecting each other, and depending on how close they are in degrees means how much they are affecting each other. So if they're in the same house, like say they're in the 8th house, for example, I'll give myself an example again. I have Mercury at a lower degree, so I'm not really sure the exact degree, but it's around like probably maybe 7 degrees of Libra. And like it's in the 8th house, but then I also have like Venus and Moon at like 21 degrees in Libra in the 8th house. Well, I have Venus and I have my Moon very, very, very close to each other. So they would kind of like, when you think of a house, they would kind of be not just in the same room, but like probably in the same bed, right? Like literally right next to each other. So they're really affecting each other because they're connecting to each other's spaces. They don't really have much space between the two of each other. So it's literally like they turn around and it's right there. Having it in the same house, but farther degrees away means like Mercury would probably be like in my kitchen, right? Or like in the backyard if it's that far away. Like if it's, 20 degrees away from each other or 14 degrees away from each other, like it's going to be a little bit further. Now, do they still affect each other? Yes, they still have conversation. It's almost like having a roommate, right? If you have a roommate, you still affect each other with how you pay your bills, with, who's using the kitchen, who's not. These are things that are being affected, but it's not going to affect you like somebody who like lives in the room with you, or like how like my dog sleeps in my room at night. So like he's going to affect me a lot more than he would affect one of my roommates. Or like I have one roommate that lives on the same floor as me, and I have another roommate that lives upstairs. So it's like my dog will affect my roommate that lives next door to me a little bit more, because if he barks or if he like runs across, she'll see him, whereas the roommate upstairs may not. So that's kind of like how you would look at that idea. So having Jupiter conjunct Pluto, what that means is that they're sitting right next to each other, right? They're sitting close to each other, close enough to where they are actually affecting each other. That is a big deal. Jupiter energy, okay? Jupiter stands for expansion. Jupiter is the the planet that rules Pisces and Sagittarius. It stands for abundance. It stands for, in many ways, it could be, I don't want to necessarily say it's escapism, because Neptune is modernly ruled by, or Pisces is modernly ruled by Neptune. I think that's very important because Neptune stands for that escapism. But Jupiter stands for love and ultimate love and understanding of like, it's like Jupiter is the guru of all the planets. It's the one that really just gets it. It's the one that's going to teach, right? Sagittarius energy is teacher energy. A lot of Sagittarius are known to be teachers or known to want to teach and want to travel to learn, to bring the information from foreign places and bring it in to these, like, to people that are local, right? To connect with that Gemini energy. So like the Sagittarius will go out, get it from like some location that's far out and bring it into the Gemini energy and be like, hey, like, pass this around. Like, that's pretty much how that Gemini and Sagittarius work together, is the sense of like, now the Gemini can do the work where they can take the information that the Sagittarius teaches them and let all the locals know about it. So it's like, it works hand in hand. And knowing that Jupiter energy is expansion. It's expansive energy. In many ways, if you kind of look it up too, there's a lot of astrologers that will say that Jupiter is like, it represents God, because it's like the expansion of like life and joy and happiness. Like, that's what Jupiter is supposed to stand for, and that is very God-like energy. It's like the spreading of love, the spreading of joy, the spreading of happiness, the spreading of just blessings. Like, that's all of that Jupiter quality is something that we would definitely connect with God energy, right? So that being said, putting it with Pluto though, okay, this gets a little bit tricky. Pluto is the more modern ruler of Scorpio. When I say modern, it's because it's not really necessarily looked at as heavily in Eastern astrology. Uranus, Neptune, Pluto are all different planets that are not necessarily going to be as looked at as in the same way in Eastern astrology. Like, they're not going to look at it like how Western astrology looks at it, because from an Eastern point of view, they kind of believe that those planets, although that they mean something because they're present in the universe, at the same time it affects more general base than it does like in a present base, right? It's like, it takes so long for those planets to orbit around the sun. It takes like years, like, I mean, 60, 70 years, you know what I mean? It takes way longer than like the moon that like goes through all the sign in roughly about 28, 29 days. So it's just kind of like, it doesn't really, for them, it's like it doesn't really affect anything. However, in Western astrology, they do look at those planets a lot deeper. And when it comes down to it, Pluto energy really, it modernly rules Scorpio. But there's a difference, because like Mars energy also rules Scorpio energy. And I probably should have mainly also well, not really, because Mars goes into Aries, so it's not like it's in retrograde, but unless it is, and I have to cover that. But my point is that those energy, when it comes to Mars is also ruling Scorpio traditionally. And when you now take the modern part of it and you put Pluto with Scorpio, so now Pluto is actually ruling Scorpio modernly. It's like, it really talks about the deeper areas that people don't necessarily want to show on a public image. So taking expansion and putting it with stuff you don't want everybody to know, you see how that may not really work? So now when you think about it, there might be a lot of information that you necessarily don't want people to know that is aired out on a whole nother level, right? This does not have to be purely for an individual. This could be even on a level of, society. There's information that will probably come out that people are going to be like, holy crap. What the hell where did this come from? What's going on? It's just going to be like mind-blowing stuff, and it's just going to be like, what? And it's going to be a large amount of it. It's going to make people very uncomfortable, and it's just going to showcase information that probably wouldn't have been like showcased had like, this energy not been apparent. So this is going to be some stuff, right? Also, it also has to do with desires. Pluto has to do with our desires, why we desire what we desire, right? Going through one thing and actually experiencing it to make us desire something else from it, a more updated version of it, or continuously desiring a new version of it in some way. It's what the reasons why we desire what we desire. So it's like, if I wanted to, let's say I wanted to go on a road trip, right? So now I go on this road trip, and as I go into this road trip, I discover that I really, really like, I don't know, Texas. So that's going to make me desire that my original desire was fulfilled to go on the road trip. And now, because I enjoyed Texas, or like, I'm saying Texas, like Austin. Let's say I went to Austin, right? So like, because I enjoyed Austin, it's going to make me now desire to possibly move to Austin. So it's like this idea of like why something that you desired previously causes you to now lead you into more desires, and what the original desire is, like how it all kind of breaks down into individual stories of more desires. So again, an abundance in this area. Now, this can either be like some happy shit, because you can be like really into the explorative side of like discovering things that you necessarily wouldn't have given time for. But now, because everything's open, you're like, oh my God, I'm totally gonna dive in and just like do things that like I never thought I would do, but like I always wanted to try. And it's just gonna keep leading into other things. So it could bring a lot of happiness in that area, or it can also put you in a position where you get a little bit greedy and you now start making decisions based off of purely needing to like go through these desires, and you have this obsession of needing to try new things, and you're not actually taking into consideration that you're kind of like only focused on new, and the retrograde just so happens to be about reflection. So it's like, that can also stir some things up with that too, because we're supposed to be reflecting, not starting things new. And the energy of Mars and Aries is probably not going to help with that, because it wants to continuously just go. So it's like, these are all things to take into consideration. But at the end of the day, let's be completely honest, like, all of this just is really beautiful energy. It's really beautiful energy to kind of like I said, go into self-worth, see where that area is, then dive into what you want to do on a daily basis. Who are you as a public image? Like, who do you want to be in society? Once you get to that place, and then you can kind of like, now that the new moon was in, and it was an eclipse at that, so it's a lot stronger of energy, but the new moon eclipse is in Cancer on June 21st. All right, so now while the moon is in its process of getting to the full moon, this is a time for you to kind of be like, what intentions do I really want to set for myself that are going to make me realize my ultimate goal of who I want to be, right? Who do I want to be in society? Who do I want to be, not just for myself, but for others to see? And that is awesome. And once you are able to kind of narrow that down, you can also see, now that I know who I want to be and what I want to represent, now you can even take it into a larger area and be like, okay, am I surrounding myself with, supporting factors to this? Do I need to move? Do I need to vote on this person instead? Do I need to, maybe open up my shop or my private business in this way instead of the other way? Do I need to apologize to that person? Do I need to be careful what I say next time? There's just so many different energies that support all of this at one time. And overall, it all comes down to then adding on that excitement with that Mars and Aries energy too, of just being like, all right, now that I know all this, ready to go. I got drive. I'm ready to take it into action. So I hope that definitely helps with understanding the weather of what's going on. I think it's really important, like I said, to understand that it's not just, the weather that's going on outside our windows, but also like it literally is outside our windows too with the planetary placements. So I think if you guys take the time to watch this full video wherever you guys are entering in, it'll really give you an understanding to seeing how like all this definitely has a flow and we could totally use it for something positive. And that being said, I am totally available since I'm now going back into reopening, you know, my areas of like astrology and tarot as well. Like, it's been a tough season for me, definitely not gonna lie, and I haven't really at one point I kind of just turned everything off because I couldn't heal when I was in the process of healing. I couldn't heal others in the process of my own healing. I needed to take that time for myself, but I already started to have my readings. I've been booking them. So if you guys need a reading, please reach out to me. I am definitely somebody that approaches tarot and astrology from a more therapeutic setting. So I can tell you right now, I'm not really like the fortune teller type of astrologer or a tarot reader. I cannot, in my belief, I can't tell you what's going to happen. You build that on your own. But if you contact me to see my style personally of how I do my readings and how I've had nothing but positive reviews, which I am so grateful to have, I'm definitely able to kind of run by my menu and how I do things and give that information to you in the best way that I can. So reach out to me. I am totally here and I look forward to the next video with you guys. All right. So thank you so much for watching my channel. Please like, please subscribe. Very important. And also please leave me a comment below because I love seeing what people say and I love meeting different people. Can't tell you how many times I've actually built relationships with people that have viewed my videos. So I would love to see what you said, and I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in. See you next time. Bye.